Welcome back to Midas Letter RAW with my debuting for the first time as the co-host.
What was that noise?
The wonderful, the one and only Howard Glassman. Howard.
What was that noise that you made? Is that your thing?
That's one of my things.
RAW. RAW. Wow, I'm telling you, what a pleasure, what an honor, what a mitzvah.
What, mitzvah?
I would say.
Is that like a Jewish
I'm really
thing?
excited. Yes, maybe. Like you don't know.
Well, I thought it was only a mitzvah if it was a Jewish thing if it was with a bar.
Well, the bar is set very low with me on this show, I can tell you that.
Oh, so it's nothing to do with going to the bar to have a mitzvah.
Maybe. Listen, I just wanted to tell you that I was very appreciative and grateful that someone like yourself would take me under your wing and have me hang out with you on this program.
Program?
Do you call it program?
I could call it the program if
it's
you
a
like.
program.
Then turn up the program, dammit.
Now, this Midas Letter, what do you guys basically focus on?
We're all about the weed, yo. We smoke the weed, bro. It's all about the weed, yo.
Well, I want you to know that, as I mentioned to you before, I don't really have, in terms of investment, I'm interested in cannabis.
Well, do you smoke it?
But I was going to say, in terms of the use and the proliferation of legality, I'm your man.
All right.
What do you want to know?
You're in.
I'm so
Howard,
All right. Now we're high-fiving.
Damn.
Nothing like old white guys high-fiving on the internet.
You know, especially if we pull it off with a sound like that.
And I want you to know when I'm serious about something.
Yes.
I'm going to put my 7-Eleven glasses on.
Okay. And will you lower your voice as well?
Well, I don't know about you. Like when my dad, I always knew my dad. I always knew I was in trouble. Was when my father would reach for his glasses and goes, "Well, let's just talk about that."
Coming up on this seminal show today, we have a really wild bunch of things going on. Of course, news nurse Ricky Gerwitz is going to read the news with a bit of a, well, I'll call it a religious inflection, because I didn't realize there was such a religious Holy Spirit here. Holy shit, there is! At 3:15, George Robinson is going to join us for, I think this will be his third time visiting us. He's the CEO of RavenQuest BioMed Inc. If you don't know who they are, they're the guys who do deals with First Nations to accelerate their participation in the cannabis space. Drone delivery is going to be shown in a feature done by our lovely and talented Sean Cookson. And then 3:40 p.m., Alan Brochstein will join us by Houston, Texas, from the 420 Investor, and that's going to be fun as ever. 4 o'clock, market close, a little chart analysis with yours truly and Howard. None of us know the slightest thing about charts, so that should be comical as well.
I can't wait.
I know. And then at 4:10, Cam Battley, Chief Corporate Officer of Aurora Cannabis, will be here, and we are going to discuss several things. Of course, he's going to talk about his financials. We're going to talk about the press conference they had where he's trying to get the government to throw out taxes against medical cannabis, a very worthy cause,
I would say.
But right now, here she is, all the way from the newsroom. It's news nurse Ricky Gerwitz. Woo!
Thanks, James, and here are the headlines moving markets today. Osoyoos Cannabis Inc. commenced trading on the Canadian Stock Exchange today under the symbol OSO. The company is pursuing 4 core business lines: contract processing for third-party licensed producers by performing tolling services for the extraction of pharmaceutical-grade purified oil from cannabis or hemp, extraction and production of oils to be sold through wholesale contracts to third-party licensed producers, leveraging extraction expertise for the development of cannabis concentrates, product formulations, and processing and packaging for ready-to-sell white-labeled products for third-party licensed producers, and manufacturing and distribution of its own proprietary Osoyoos cannabis branded products for retail. James E Wagner Cultivation Corporation announced that it has entered into a loan agreement for an amount of 5 million Canadian dollars with Ball Construction Limited. JWCA will use a loan to pay construction invoices issued in respect of services and materials provided for the rapid development efforts at JWC's second facility, JWC2. The loan does not provide for any cash draws by the corporation. Delta 9 has announced future expansion plans, including the increase of its production capacity to 60,000 kilograms by 2022. The company will also expand its retail store network to 4 stores by the end of the second quarter 2019. Heritage Cannabis Holdings Corp announced the arrival of the first 2 Vitals Q90 extraction systems at the Canopy Corp facility in Fort Erie, Ontario. The extraction machines will be temporarily installed in repurposed clean rooms as Canopy prepares for the build-out of Phase 2. The planned second phase will include dedicated extraction rooms with an anticipated completion of August 2019 at an estimated cost of $1 million. Once certified, the Fort Erie location will have a potential annual processing capacity in excess of 150,000 kilograms of dried cannabis or hemp input per year, which could produce up to 6,500 kilograms of cannabis resin on an annual basis. MediPharm Labs Corp has entered into its first definitive international sales agreement with OSCAN Group Holdings Limited. MediPharm Labs will supply private label purified pharmaceutical-grade cannabis oil concentrates or resin from their own inventory of oil for export to Australia. OSCAN will use MediPharm's concentrates to manufacture hard-shell cannabinoid capsules for medical patients. Green Growth Brands Inc. announced the opening of 2 new 7-cent CBD shops in Indiana and Tennessee. And Aleafia Health Inc. has been named the TMX Group's 2019 TSX Venture 50 Top Performing Company of the Year amongst the 2,000 companies listed on the exchange. The award was based on market capitalization growth, share price appreciation, and trading volume. Aurora Cannabis is broadening its senior leadership team. Effective immediately, Mr. Darren Karasiak, formerly Executive Vice President for Adult Usage Global, has been promoted to Chief Commercial Officer. The company has also promoted Ms. Jill Swainson, previously Senior Vice President of Legal Affairs, to Chief Legal Officer and Corporate Secretary of the company. Gabriella's Kitchen has entered into a supply agreement to purchase CBD extract, including full-spectrum, high-grade cannabis oil, distillate oil, and isolate crystals from Extract Experts, the largest producer of hemp in the state of Oregon. Green Thumb Industries Inc. has closed the acquisition of For Success Holding Company, the Los Angeles-based creator of the lifestyle suite of Bebo-branded cannabis products. Bebo is currently available in more than 125 retail locations in California and Colorado and via home delivery across California. In 2018, Bebo launched a direct-to-consumer hemp-derived CBD line of products and introduced several collaborations, including a CBD-infused drink with wellness brand Dirty Lemon. High Tide Inc. announced that it has been licensed to open its 9th Canna Cabana retail store located in Calgary, Alberta. The Kensington store has been converted from a Smoker's Corner location and is now the first franchised Canna Cabana outlet in the High Tide network. The store is approved to sell smoking accessories and cannabis lifestyle products. And that's your news for today.
Fabulous news, Eva, wouldn't you say, Helen?
I think it was fantastic. Ricky seems like a very nice person.
Yes. Now, one of the news items that I wanted to touch on briefly here is the Osoyoos Cannabis Inc. started trading today on the CSE under the symbol OSO, and by all accounts, it was a smashing success.
Well, maybe you could explain that to me because, as you know, as I've mentioned, I understand cannabis from a user perspective, but not as an investor. Was this a long time coming for them?
Well, you know, all public companies have different gestation periods. In the case of Osoyoos, as happens with many public companies, there was a pivot to a better direction throughout the course of the evolution. So it took a little bit longer than what we would call best case scenario, but that's always a good thing for the investors. You don't want them to have to pivot to a new business model after they're public, because that's invariably a disaster. So essentially what happened was we started with a great company and we ended up with a fantastic company. The main guy, the main shareholder in this is the same gentleman who founded the Incomeat Winery in Osoyoos and was voted best business dude of the year in some capacity.
He's the guy that got best business dude?
Best business dude. Business Hall of Fame. No, seriously, this guy has already started and run a very successful business. There's the Incomeat Winery, the Incomeat Golf Course, the Incomeat Resort, which I don't know if you've ever stayed at the Incomeat Resort in Osoyoos.
No, sir.
Fucking gorgeous.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So swearing's allowed on this little...
Fuck yeah. You know,
this really is like the Wild West over here.
Well,
this really should be called the Wild West letter.
This is the domestic.
He's out of control. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is there's a lot of people running around, very busy in this office.
I'm the domesticated West.
And there's Liz, and there's a couple guys with accents, and it all seems very well put together, and it's all run by him, Barnum and Bailey of weed.
No. Hardly that. All I do is just get everybody to come in and they all make it work. It's a miracle. It takes this many people to make me look coherent and intelligent.
Well,
that's
listen,
the bottom line.
No offense, you might want to get a few more people now that I'm here.
Yes, well, I see.
So what you do every day is Ricky does the news and you kind of talk about some of the things that she's talking about.
Well,
for instance, I want to ask, if I'm watching this show right now, is Osoyoos cannabis something that I should be looking at if I was an investor?
This is why people tune in, because they want to get a read on these companies from the standpoint of somebody who looks at a shit ton of companies every day.
Wow.
Now, we have to caveat everything, and our audience, our regular audience, knows this well, because in a nutshell, we're not to be trusted because we are investors in these companies. We have them as clients. We sometimes administer different forms of sexual favors where required, if that will get us a contract. That's how desperate we are for business here. So, but that all being said, we give our honest opinion about the qualities of companies. Well, I wouldn't say that so my policy is simple. If you don't have something nice to say about somebody, don't say anything. So if they never come on the show and you never see them in Midas Letter
the lines,
exactly.
That's not a big favor to yours. Osoyoos, you say it went public today.
Yes.
Can you already see if it has had some activity?
You know,
is that a dumb question?
It is, but we're not going to hold that against you. It being your first kick at the can here. I'm going to pull up the symbol. Here's one of the cool things that we do here. Is we enter symbol names incorrectly and feature the wrong stock. But no, I can actually pull up the symbol of the company, and we can see now, you can see by this that there's only one line. That's because it's only traded 1 day. So I got to take this chart down to the 1 day look. Now we got the intraday trading. So the stock started to open the day at 35 cents. It's traded down to 26 cents. So it's essentially lost about, it's lost a third of its value in the first day of trading. Now, here's the thing about watching stocks is people who don't have a lot of experience, tend to look at 1 day's activity and say, that thing's a piece of shit, that thing went down. Well, stocks go down every day, and the trick is not to miss. How does that go again? Damn it!
Don't miss the days it goes up. Is that what he's struggling for?
Don't focus on the bobbing cork. You're going to miss the rising tide. That's how that homily goes.
Don't focus on the bobbing cork. Now that's not a sexual reference. You're talking. That's one of your homilies.
My name is not Bobbit. That's one of my homemade homilies.
So you don't focus on the bobbing cork, you make sure the rainwater washes it away or something.
Basically,
I've already forgotten.
You bathe with oil of Olay and Irish Spring in the morning.
Let me answer the question for all the viewers. What am I doing here? No one knows. No one has any idea.
So the bottom line is 1 day of trading enough to make an assessment on the investment quality of this company? No, but here's where the value comes. It's like, well, if the trend is your friend, is a very valid sort of cliche in the industry. If the stock's going lower, chances are I'm not going to buy it today because it's in a downward trend. Maybe I'm going to buy it tomorrow.
But what about if you enjoy is the wrong word. If you look at what they're doing and you believe in it, some of the things they're doing, I'm reading that the extraction and production of oils to be sold through wholesale. I mean, if you think their business model is a valuable one, it doesn't matter what the stock does day to day. You think that long-term health is something you might want to be involved in.
Jesus, you're talking like a bloody investor now.
Well, I don't.
Get out! Get out! Damn you! Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this was going to happen. He's smarter than all of us. Oh no!
How'd you enjoy that pile of shit I just threw out there? No, but
Good God, man.
But I mean, I look at weed investment the same way you would look at anything. If you believe in what the company is going to do, are you leaving?
Howard, you know what? You just smoked this.
What happened?
This is some of the best cannabis. This is from Aurora. We're going to talk to Cam lately. I'm just going to steal that from you.
Wow.
If you want to smoke some, go ahead. Actually, no, you can. It's illegal to smoke in this building because it's public.
That's the real thing right there, kids. That's
some cannabis ghost train haze, isn't it?
Well, this is Ghost Train Haze. Now, I haven't had that, but I've had their Afghan Bull Rider.
Yeah? Oh, nice. Coming up, we've got the CEO of RavenQuest, George Robinson, will be here in just a moment. But first, this.
Schedule. He took my schedule, the prick.
RavenQuest BioMed Inc. is a diversified publicly traded cannabis company with divisions focused on cannabis production, management services and consulting, and specialized research and development. RavenQuest is a licensed producer with facilities located in Markham, Ontario and Edmonton, Alberta. The company maintains a research partnership with Montreal's McGill University, focused upon cultivar recognition, plant stabilization, and yield maximization of the cannabis plant. RavenQuest BioMed Inc. is listed on the CSE and trades under the ticker symbol RQB.
Joining me now is George Robinson, CEO of RavenQuest BioMed. George, how are you doing?
Doing awesome today. Glad to see you again and glad to chat with you.
Yeah, you bet. It seems we've got a bit of a delay. Where are we talking to you from today?
I'm in Vancouver today, so I'm actually back in my office here.
Okay, well that would explain why it's so slow. You're so far away. George, RavenQuest recently announced that you're going to provide management and consulting services to Bonify Holdings Corp. I didn't realize that consulting was one of the business lines of RavenQuest BioMed, sorry.
Yeah, we've had it. Actually, it was the first set of companies that we rolled into my public body, RQB, from my private companies that I ran prior to starting RavenQuest. So we actually had, at the time, 49 clients, and now we have 79 clients that we consult to, anywhere from application development to full design of their facilities and helping them with licensing, and like Bonify, helping them through any one of the processes that they might be struggling with, whether it be growing, drying, or security. It's been a big part of our business for me since 2010, and a big part of our business here at RavenQuest.
Sure. Is Bonify Holdings a First Nations-oriented cannabis company?
No, they're actually a private company, a licensed producer based in Winnipeg. I actually started with them in May of 2014 and started out helping them back at that time build their security system. But as they started to realize the other skills, talents, and attributes we have in our consulting team, we started helping them with everything from SOP development, quality control, and growing and building layouts. So they've been there for a while, but a new management team came in a while ago and pushed many of us out, and we're now back in under a different kind of circumstances, but helping them get their business back and get the trust of the regulators and the community back on side.
Right. Okay, so but RavenQuest business model was in some way, shape, or form involved with assisting First Nations groups wanting to get into cannabis, get through that last mile. Is that still part of the program?
Yeah, big part of the program. Since the last time we chatted, we've now have another nation that's working with us. We have a group called Alexander First Nations, and we have a bunch more that we're working with them from a consulting perspective on getting their Cannabis Act written. And once their Cannabis Act is written on their own nation, we'll be able to move that into more formal agreements on helping them through application and then right through to building, design, and construction.
Now, First Nations applicants for cannabis licenses get to partake in the Navigator program, which supposedly fast tracks them to the front of the line in the application process and gives them preferential treatment. Is that accurate?
You know, I think that's what happens, but I don't think that's what Health Canada would say at all. I think what really is actually happening is that they have a group. Last time I chatted with them, there's about 10 people in the group that actually takes a look at these Indigenous community-led applications. And I think that somewhat streamlines it because there's very dedicated resources. But I don't think they'd ever say that there's a fast track in place for it, but that's essentially what's happening.
Hey, George, this is, my name's Howard Glassman. I don't know if you can see me. I'm here hanging out with James. I really know pretty much absolutely nothing about investing in cannabis, but I did have a question for you. On your next appearance, would you wear the Star Wars hat that we can see in the shot there in the back? There it is. That's a boy. There you go. Now you look like you're part of this crew. Right. Well done, George.
in an effort to get this back into some semblance of seriousness, George.
See how quickly he did that, though? Everyone just wants to have fun, George.
I know. Girls just want to have fun. Okay, so, George, it's interesting to me that this Bonify, you came in, you helped them out, you became the CEO, and then they moved away from you. Why would they do that?
Well, sometimes you get different changes in executive leadership teams that decide that they want to bring in their own people that will drive the business forward. And, you know, I'm probably one of the most pragmatic CEOs of any, at least in the cannabis space. So sometimes I say things that people just don't want to hear, but it's the truth. You have to stay absolutely 100% compliant and stay in the business. Important part of the message, and maybe they pushed us away for a bit.
Okay, George. That signal is a bit broken up there. We didn't really catch that, but I'm going to just pop you another question here. What big catalysts can we look forward to coming up for RavenQuest investors in the next quarter here?
Yeah, so a couple of things really quickly. I've got all our paperwork in, all of the questions from Health Canada on our sales license for Markham, Ontario. We're just waiting for them to click the paperwork and send us out our full sales license for that site. And then our Edmonton facility is, again, we went through the core and the evidence package, back and forth on a couple of questions I had, no questions as of late. Those are the two main catalysts. But our agreement that we've now put in place with Dutch Passion, we've kind of cornered the market a bit on genetics coming out of Holland. So those are three big catalysts that are helping out right now.
Okay, George, we're going to leave it there for now. The signal, unfortunately, is not cooperating with us today. Come and see us when you're in Toronto next. Thanks for joining us.
George, nice hat. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, yeah, that's the downside about the whole Skype thing.
What I would have asked him, and again, this could be...
do you want us to get him back on the line?
No, what I was going to ask you. Well, yeah, I want to get him back. But I just wonder, if these companies that have holdings in different provinces, like, is the business model different in Ontario, where basically, for now, you can just sell to the government? Because at some point, they need to open up wouldn't they need to open up markets? Like Ontario right now, the only client is the government.
Yes, that is true on the recreational side.
Is this too serious a question for you?
No, that's a good question. I mean, it's kind of interesting because a lot of people are like, well, what the hell's going on? You've got the two regimes across the country, medical and recreational. Medical is the same across the country. You got to buy it at the company's website after you've got a prescription from a doctor and it comes in the mail.
Understood.
No differentiation from that. They never run out. They've always got medical cannabis.
They seem to have an endless supply of that.
Recreational cannabis is another affair entirely.
They ran out on day 2.
Stores allowed in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, but not in Quebec. Not in Quebec and not in Manitoba. You can grow your own in Ontario, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia.
Very impressive.
But again, not in Quebec and not in Manitoba. I think those two provinces should just merge, personally. But
Quebec-atoba.
Exactly, Quebec-atoba or Manaquack.
Right. Yes. Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah. So, and here's the other thing: is it's a continuously shifting landscape. Toronto gets what's the guy's name whose brother was a
Doug Ford.
Yeah, him. He became the premier of the province. He advocated for the allocation of private storefronts.
Yeah.
And so they changed the rules. They started a lottery, and they gave 25 people who won the lottery the ability to open a store.
Yeah, and some of those people, I don't know if people realize this, you could put your name in that lottery whether you've ever been in the business, whether you have ever run a business. And some of those license, well, I mean, I assume that all of them were picked up by companies that do this for a living. But some of those people that got in that lottery had no business in it.
Had no business in it is the operative term, and it cost $6,000 to apply.
Exactly.
Plus you had to put up a letter of credit for $50K. And you had until April 1st to get your store open. Otherwise, they took $12,500 away from your $50,000 deposit. And if in 2 weeks you still don't have the store open, they take another $12,000.
But you know, all those people were either LPs or people associated with LPs. They were just going to sell them to somebody.
Well, that was the thing. You can't actually just win the lottery and sell your license to somebody.
You can't.
And the LPs are only allowed to have one storefront, and it's only at one of their licensed growing locations. So what happened is 25 people won the lottery. We interviewed a couple of them. Some of them sound like they might be able to do it, but even Starbucks doesn't open a location when they get it in 6 months, and coffee is not a regulated product.
Understood.
So it's kind of like our attitude is like, oh, so they've given away 25 licenses, and in due course there'll be somewhere around 25 bankruptcies.
Right.
But what actually happened is now they're starting to partner with the LPs because they've realized there's no way in hell this is going to happen.
Well, and recently they closed down, I don't know how many, 40 or 50 dispensaries in the city of Hamilton. And I'll tell you, about a month and a half ago, I won't say the name of the retailer, I went there just because I wanted to see what the experience was. Because I bought it at retail legally in Victoria and illegally here in Ontario. All the government had to do was let the people who were already up and running and making a business of it, they just needed to have those people apply for legitimate licenses. Why would that have been so hard to figure out?
Well, let me tell you,
Mr. West,
Howard,
if that is your real name.
As a former black market specialist, I can tell you that running a black market business is kind of one of the attractions is that you don't apply for anything. Nobody tells you what you can and can't do. And in fact, if you are viscerally, essentially, cerebrally committed to the idea that, hey, this is a plant, nobody on fucking earth has any business regulating this bullshit, I'm gonna grow it and sell it, fuck you, government of Ontario. Who'd have known that they were going to take your business from you in 25 years?
Yeah, and that attitude, I get what you're saying. That attitude might have applied, a few years ago when you were like this renegade vagabond moving from town to town selling your wares.
That was last week.
Yeah, but when you can go into a store, like I did, not just before they raided these dispensaries, when you can the vagabond time is done. The days of hemp as a plant of the planet. They're already in business. They've got websites, they've got staff, they've got, I don't know where they're getting their weed from, but it was good. It was just fine. The weed was good.
Well,
the service was great.
Yeah, well, the debate rages on, like these, so there's a company out there, what do they call, Pasha, and Pasha is going around and getting commitments from they've got 200 different locations now, have signed up, and the deal is Pasha, as the publicly traded entity, is going to go through the licensing process on their behalf if they agree to be part of the Pasha business model. Pasha is going to be the first broad-based distributor of craft-grown cannabis from these formerly heretofore illegitimate sources.
And the Ontario government's still planning these dinky OCS stores starting in April or May, or are they not? Or has that been shoved aside now?
I think that they're still planning to open those stores, and I haven't heard anything otherwise. So, but I would caveat that with I haven't actually looked into it lately.
That's fine.
Because it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it's like the first time I've heard anything about the Ontario cannabis storefronts since the lottery actually took everybody's attention off the ball and put it over there.
It did.
Which I wonder, was that maybe part of the rationale behind coming up with this lottery system?
One what I know. When Doug Ford was dealing hash out behind whatever, he never ran out of weed. There was always weed.
Well, there was one time, the Paraquat scare of 1976, remember?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember
76, I was in Moose Jaw. I was a young boy in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Well, the only time cannabis ever suffered a actual shortage of weed for sale on the black or legitimate market, at that time there was no legitimate market, or arguably the black market was the legitimate market, depending on where you sit on the psychological, philosophical scale, there was the United States decided to spray Paraquat, which is an herbicide, to kill all of the cannabis being produced in Mexico, because back in the 70s, the public profile of cannabis as a Schedule I narcotic was extremely high, and the war on drugs was just getting started. So as a way to justify that this war on drugs is something that could be won, they actually sprayed Paraquat all over this Mexican marijuana, and that was it. The sole source of cannabis for most of Canada suddenly was reduced to just like the guerrilla growers in Northern California and Oregon.
Those were dark times.
They were very dark times.
They were dark times, my friend.
Those are the worst 2 weeks of my life.
I can see you're still affected by it.
Yes, psychologically.
All I'm saying is, the government got involved in this. We thought it was going to be a great windfall for legitimate buying it, accessibility, convenience. But I promise you, that day is coming. Yes. Whether it's the these big companies taking over and starting their own chains, or you can just go into a Shoppers at some point and pick it up.
Howard, what does it say down there about 3:30 p.m.?
Oh, you don't have your own schedule?
No, I don't know what happened to it.
We're going to talk to some drone people.
Oh! Do you know anything about drones?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do.
What do you know? What do you know, bro? Yo, bro, what do you know about the drones, yo?
Easy, man.
Tell me.
Tell them to stop yelling at me. I've been up since 5. So this morning on the Humble and Fred show, world famous Humble and Fred show, we spoke to a guy from the Canadian. Okay, I'm making this up now. Okay, he was a drone guy.
That's what we do. In lieu of a good story, we
He's
just
from
make it up.
He was a CEO of the Canadian Drone Association. Actually, no, his name was Darren Clark, and he's the chief pilot at this drone academy, where as of, I think, June 1st or June 30th, you're going to now have to have a license, just like a pilot's license. You're going to have a designation to operate a drone in the airspace, as opposed to just, hey, taking off and shooting pictures at your kid's birthday party. You're now going to have to apply for a Transport Canada, almost like a little mini pilot's license.
Even as a private operator?
Even as a private operator, sir.
You mean I'm not allowed to fly my drone and have it shooting live 4K video of women in buildings and having sex with their... we're on
By the
TV.
way, if fly your drone is also a euphemism for when you have sex, I want no part of it. All I know is as of a couple months from now, you need to apply and get to be regulated to have a drone flight.
I didn't know this was the bad news program.
Wow.
The Condor is the biggest drone delivery machine in Canada and is about to revolutionize the industry. Sean Cookson has the story.
Drone Delivery Canada is set to unveil the Condor today, a gas-powered vertical takeoff and landing rotocraft, and I decided to check it out.
The first thing I noticed was the massive scale of this flying machine.
It is big. So it's our first gas-powered drone platform, and it moves 400 pounds of cargo. We started off with our Sparrow, which is a 10-pound cargo capacity drone. We upgraded to the Robin, which does 25 pounds, then the Falcon, which does 50, and this one here now does 400. So we continue pushing the envelope as the technology keeps perfecting itself, and now we're ready to get this in the sky. We're going to start doing test flights in Q3 of this year. We've embedded our flight management system into the Condor, which is really the brains behind it all. Flying robots. So our flight system creates an autonomous path, a flight path. Everything is monitored and managed from ground control.
A drone operator can oversee up to 50 drones at any given time.
We're building an action operations center right now in Vaughan, Ontario. That'll house about 20 to 25 drone operators. So we operate as a managed service. There's nobody flying the drone. If there's a problem, a human can intervene and get involved, but ultimately it's flying on a predetermined flight path. The Condor will do 200 kilometers at about 120 kilometers an hour. The smaller ones will do about 30 kilometers, 30 to 50 kilometers, and the speed will vary depending on the weather conditions, but typically about 65, 70 kilometers an hour. It's actually very cost effective, believe it or not.
The Condor is able to move cargo at 33 cents to the dollar versus traditional means of transport.
It's really about building a platform where there's a return on investment and we generate efficiencies of scale. We're looking at hybrid solutions for this vehicle here. So for now, as a starting point, we're going to go with a conventional small CC internal combustion engine. And then once we get this in the air, then we'll experiment with hybrid technologies. We're always looking at better ways to enhance the fleet. We're at a great point in our business right now. We're at the starting line. We've developed the technology, it works. We're ready to prove it out, put it into commercial operations, so the sky's really the limit. It's a very exciting time for us.
With the unveiling of the Condor today, I'm no expert, but I certainly see Drone Delivery Canada taking off. For Midas Letter Live, I'm Sean Cookson.
I'm joined now by Alan Brochstein, Uber analyst of cannabis from America, and he's in Houston, Texas today, joining us via Skype. Alan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Good to see you, James.
It's always great to see you too. Alan, I understand. Let's start it off with a little promo here. You mentioned that you're going to be here in Canada in April for an event.
I am. It's my 29th anniversary, and I'm going to be there with my wife, but I don't think that's what everybody cares about. Benzinga, it was such a great conference last time, even though you weren't able to make it. And they've decided to come back April 17th and 18th, and after a very successful Miami event, and I think they're going to have another one in October in the United States as well. So yeah, put it on your calendar.
Sounds like fun. I will definitely be there. Alan, let's cut straight to the chase here. Aurora and Canopy both put out financials. Collectively, they sold, the two companies were 50% of all cannabis sold in Canada. Aurora had 55 million-ish in top-line revenue. Canopy 87, was it? They both had still substantial losses, but what's your take on the sort of reading the tea leaves between these two behemoths of cannabis globally and their progress towards ever greater amounts of revenue?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We've been waiting for this for a long time to see this big hockey stick in revenue, and I think the good news is there's more to come. I think investors this year are going to be very focused on more than just revenue. And, you know, fortunately for both of these, as you said, behemoths, there's a lot of different buckets of revenue. And I found one of the more interesting things to see who focused on what, because the three big buckets are the consumer market in Canada, the medical market in Canada, and then the global market. And, you know, both Canopy and Aurora are tops, if not at the top, for the international. And that's still small and growing. I was kind of surprised to see, and I still haven't figured it out, honestly, why Canopy Growth's medical business fell for the second straight, medical business in Canada fell for the second straight quarter. So there's a difference, and I don't think there's a right or a wrong, but investors can probably spend a little bit of time trying to figure out why, and which is the smarter move to devote more resources to the consumer market today, which Canopy's done, and or to be like Aurora and you know, really put the pedal to the metal on the medical side. And I'll throw in a little plug for CannTrust, which is uplisting to the New York Stock Exchange. Nice to see that. Not a client of New Cannabis Ventures, so I'm happy to plug them just because they deserve it. They apparently, I just watched an interview. It was probably with you. Actually, it wasn't, though. It should have been. Their medical business appears to be growing, James. So this will be interesting as well because they're on a different calendar. You know, their year ends December 31st, and they'll be reporting in March, presumably. And we'll learn, I believe, that they picked up some share in Canada. And I think this is fascinating to think about, you know, the longer term implications of, you know, who's going to focus on what. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Right. Okay. So do you think that the fact that the medical market is sort of growing, and now we've had the first full quarter of the recreational market reported in the financials of these two companies, do you get the sense that the Canadian market is going to be all right, or do you get the sense more towards the idea that it's overvalued and investors need to be careful?
You know, you read the cover of Barron's, and I think they were picking on U.S. companies this weekend, and it was, you know, a long weekend for both Canada and the United States. Certainly some deja vu to a year ago when Bill Alpert talked about how overvalued all the Canadian LPs are, and even with the scandal of Aleafia and what have you, you know, Canopy and Kronos have lifted that boat a lot. So I think investors are always wise to understand valuation and not wise to obsess over it. I think this year in Canada, things, as I've been saying, things can only get better. It is so messed up, it's sad. I don't know if I could have designed a worse rollout than Canada has done. I give them credit for the absolute stupidity that's been engaged in the way they've gone about it, especially in Ontario, as we all know. So I think investors are going to be very pleased that it can only go in one direction. And I remind everybody that, you know, for many companies, Canada is it. And even maybe just the medical market is it. It's going to be very fierce, the competition in the adult consumer side, but the distribution, you know, I listened to I think it was Matt Bottomley yesterday, and you know, he pointed out, you know, the distribution is just horrible. You know, I'm here in Texas. I don't get to walk around on Vancouver or Alberta, but even in the more progressive provinces that have seemingly doing it right, but were limited by these supply constraints, even there, there's really no reason for people to be using these stores yet. They're just not there. But if you look out, it's going to be pretty awesome over time. You will have, you know, more cannabis dispensaries in Canada than you have Starbucks probably. So I think this year is going to be a lot better. Many of the companies will see some progress on the global landscape. And, you know, a year ago we wouldn't have been talking about this, but now we can talk about these either front door or back door U.S. plays. And everybody knows that's where the big dollars are, and or some of the big dollars. Big Pharma might be another one. So, James, I'm pretty optimistic, actually.
Sure. And what's your take on the proliferation of the biosynthetic business company developers?
Yeah, that's a good topic. I've been writing about that for actually a couple of years now, and I think there's a couple things to keep in mind. First of all, if this is successful, and it's not proven yet that these alternative forms using things like E. coli or yeast to generate cannabinoids rather than cannabis, if it works, this is really a good thing. I mean, unlike synthetics, I know a lot of people don't like the sound of this, but these are natural cannabinoids, and there should be no difference between the cannabinoids produced by cannabis and them, and they can be reconstituted with terpenes, and so you can basically look at probably half the industry moving in that direction, and that's probably going to be a better thing. And then for the pharmaceutical industry as well, it's probably going to be a better thing, and the implications are mixed for companies. If you're out there telling investors, we're just going to be weed growers, you're screwed. That's not going to work. I mean, there will always be a place for flower, and you can't create flower through this biosynthesis. But for half the market that'll be extracts and edibles, and for the pharmaceutical market, this is a great thing. So as an investor, you need to be aware of, you know, is your company going to have stranded assets? Are you going to have these cultivation facilities that are, you know, you're competing for a much smaller market than you thought? And you're not taking your feedstock and feeding it into the extraction company. So I think it's an interesting topic. There's a lot of capital now being poured into it. Nobody is at scale, to the best of my knowledge, and I continue to think it's something we need to monitor, but it's a longer-term concern, not a short-term one.
You bet, Alan. Okay, those are great insights as usual, Alan. We're going to leave it there for now. We'll come back to you in due course. Thank you so much for joining me today again. If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
And welcome back.
Yeah, how about those drones?
Drones!
How about those drones? No, Alan wasn't talking about drones.
No, Alan seemed like he's one of those people that just seems bright.
Actually,
like a bright
the problem
man.
I have with Alan every time I talk to him is that, like, we could literally go on for hours.
Right.
And most often the control room has to say, James, it's been 15 minutes. I thought you said no more than 10 minutes. But seriously, the guy is so broadly knowledgeable across the entire U.S. landscape and the Canadian landscape.
Right, you were telling me, I asked you about him. He's a guy that was early to the market with and early to recommend cannabis for his people.
So, he's a chartered financial analyst, which means legally he can recommend that you buy a cannabis stock, and he can predict a future price. So he can say, I recommend this stock as a buy with a future price target of X. And he can legally do that. I can't legally do that because I'm not a chartered financial analyst. And
you're not?
No, I'm not.
Really?
I'm not otherwise accredited. In fact,
by the way, neither am I.
I'm essentially a high school dropout.
Oh, okay. Are you?
Yes.
Really, here's the thing. I went to grade 12. I just never finished grade 12.
Oh, I never got to grade 12.
Look at you.
I got 8 credits in grade 9, and I got like above 80% in all my credits. During the summer between grade 9 and 10, I discovered marijuana. I got high as fuck. I came back. I was insolent, cursing out the teachers. I was bringing wineskins full of booze. I got kicked out by October. I only escaped with 4 credits.
You're like an S.C. Hinton character.
And then
Look that up, kids.
And then I was like, when I was like 18, I was visiting my father in Florida. He says, "You're going to get your goddamn grade 12, and you're going to do it here." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I ain't going back to school, Dad." He's like, "You're going down to Orlando Community College, and they got a course where in 5 hours you're going to write an exam, and you're going to have your last or grade 12 after that."
All right.
It's called a graduation equivalency diploma.
Understood.
I go down to this thing.
I feel like you're a therapist now.
Yeah. Well, you are. It's a room full of fellow bozos and dropouts like me, and I sit down, and I'm just like, the questions are remarkably simple.
Sure.
I'm like, fuck, if I'd have known I could have waited for this to get my grade 12, I would have quit school in grade 3.
Yeah.
I would have.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
You know what? Let this be a lesson for you kiddies. You don't really need to go to school as long as you get involved with marijuana and wineskins.
Exactly.
And now here's James with the market close.
Fuck school, smoke dope. Fuck school, smoke dope. That's what we used to say. That was our mantra.
All right. Compared to you, I had a PhD. I went to grade 12. I went the whole time. I just missed a couple courses. Then I was going to go back after I graduated, or went finished, and then I got into radio.
Yeah.
And then I never went back.
Huh. So you started talking, and you still haven't stopped.
I started talking and never stopped talking. Why won't he stop talking? Anyway, I like the impression of your father. I see there's some unresolved...
See, if I was my father, I'd reach across and let me give you one just for that.
Easy now there, son. I'm from Saskatchewan,
You're wondering why I yell at you all the time?
Why are you yelling? Do I remind you?
I'm channeling my father.
Of your daddy?
Yeah, exactly. Now, my father didn't yell all the time. My father was a bit of a bon vivant. He was not at all like that.
My dad yelled.
Did he?
Oh, yeah. My dad was one of the last of the great, the parents of the 50s and 60s. Yell first, hit first, ask questions later.
Oh, see, that was my father. Just backhand to the side of the head. If I'm still talking after that, then I'm going to get something to cry about.
Yes, indeed.
I know.
All right. Well, you know what? Why don't we get a little high here and just talk about our parents for the next 25 minutes?
Damn, Howard. Just the way the laws are in Canada. And now, unfortunately, I have become a law-abiding citizen against my better judgment. Do you know why?
No, I have no idea.
I've decided I don't want to spend any time in jail.
Yes.
Having navigated the horrible pitfalls and temptations of youth without spending any time in jail, I thought, maybe there's a lesson here from the universe that
don't go to jail.
You got this far, don't push your luck, kid.
Pretty guy like you, you don't want to be in jail. Pretty boy, James West.
Ooh,
pretty boy.
Put me in jail with that guy.
I spent 3 hours in jail.
Really?
Yes.
3 hours?
Yes, sir. Waiting for my dad to pick me up.
Oh, now that's too funny, probably inappropriate for discussion in front of the audience. I, too, spent some time in jail, and it was my father who finally came and rescued me.
Yeah, that was, I'll tell you what, driving home with my dad, having him pick me up in jail, that was a long car ride.
Yeah, I can see that.
It seemed very long and awkward, kind of like this segment.
My father picked me up in Georgia and took me back to Orlando.
Oh, my God.
Yes, it was, that's a whole other story. That's something for our other comic existence.
Sure,
we'll work on that.
We'll talk about that.
We'll come back to you with more tales of titillation and
When
horror.
does the market close? When do we do that bit?
It's, it's funny, but it closes at 4 o'clock. So it's 3:48 now. We're like,
we're way
somehow
early.
we got way ahead of our schedule.
What happened to you guys? Is it me? Did I throw you off your schedule?
No, I don't think so. I think there's I
got lots of questions.
I think, yes, we did throw you off the schedule. Okay.
So I didn't mean to. Like, I was just sitting here.
No, that's all good. You know, the only thing I like better than a smattering of organization is absolute chaos.
It's fine with me.
All right.
That's how I live my life, my friend.
That's how I live. There's a rock tune in there somewhere.
Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be more present. I'm trying to be open to experience. I'm trying to listen more. I know this seems odd because I've been doing nothing but talking, but I'm open to learning from people. And even though you parade around here as a bit of a loose cannon, I feel there's lots of stuff that that is why you have such it's why you're so popular on your letter here. But also I think it's important for people to get a sense that there's this industry. I don't think the average character out there in Canada, I don't think they realize that there's this much business. The organization of marijuana is fascinating to me.
The business.
The business.
You like the business, dude.
Okay. Can we not have... This is why this show is off the rails today. Are you really 12 minutes?
We're going to talk about the vineyard. That's what you're going to do.
Wait a second. Are you really 12 minutes ahead of schedule?
This is the thing.
How is that possible?
We are ahead of our time, Howard. That's just the bottom line.
What do you want to do? I'll tell you some stories.
Well, I don't know.
What do you want to talk about?
Smoke some of this stuff. We're gonna have Cam Battley's going to be here in about 20 minutes, and why not be high as fuck on his weed?
No, I don't think that would be a great idea, because sometimes, lately, mostly when I get high, I just like to watch the Netflix and eat 7-Eleven chicken.
Really?
Yes, sir.
It's Ghost Train Haze. Perfect blend of cannabis, CBD, indica.
But funny, you mock the attributes, but I think there's a place, and maybe even a place on this program, where you have almost like a weed sommelier. Somebody that, I mean, legitimately, because, I have a friend of mine, he took a level 3 wine course, and he's basically able to could work in a restaurant. Why isn't there a designation for somebody to be a weed sommelier, where they will talk about the different attributes, whether it's therapeutic or recreational, and then let's say you have an activity, here's the weed that goes best with that activity.
Ooh, like a cannabelier. A cannelier. A cannabelier?
Just keep going. Because it sounds like you're having a stroke, which I find amusing. I'm going to sit up. Should I sit up straighter?
No, I like to see you slouching over as if you're stoned as fuck. But people can tell that we haven't actually used this yet. This, by the way, if you're wondering about this bong, this was provided to us by Raj Grover from Famous Brands yesterday, who is the gentleman who is making a full line of Midas Letter cannabis consumption products. Cool. Sorry, from High Tide. High Tide owns Famous Brands. Anyways, this is signed by Snoop Dogg. This is commissioned by Snoop Dogg.
Wow.
And I'm going to sign all my bongs.
I bet you are. I'll tell you right now, if I could sign my bong, I wouldn't be here.
How do you write on glass like that that's rounded? That's what I don't get. Must be just blazed on there somehow. But among the many valuable propositions we have here for our audience, Howard.
Yes, there's a value proposition.
We talk about some of the ripping stocks ripping being ones that are going upwards in a rather fearsome trajectory.
Is that what your kids call it? Ripping?
Ripping. And then we
stocks that are crushing it?
Crushing it. Nah, crushing it doesn't work.
Okay.
But stocks are ripping, stocks are flying, stocks are soaring.
So what are the rippers?
This is the thing. It's that we've been babbling away so much. Sorry, God was speaking to me and my volume was down. What was that, Lord? That's a hell of an idea.
What are some examples, James, of stocks that are ripping, that are soaring, that are flying?
Typically, what I have to do is I have to prepare before the show and look at the highest traders of the day in the most actives list.
Oh, I see.
Which I normally do if I have a spare moment to scratch my nose, wipe my ass, fart, belch.
You were very busy before the show.
I have had no time today. So, the process, I'm going to demonstrate it live here, and on my screen here you will see my portfolio manager. Right now I've got my Midas Letter portfolio up, and that's neither here nor there. We're going to look at the Canadian Cannabis Index.
Oh, interesting.
So, these are the 4 indexes here. The first one being the Midas Letter Canadian Cannabis Index is all $500 million plus market cap Canadian listed cannabis companies, followed by the Midas Letter Small Cap Cannabis Industry Index, which is all stocks above 100 million, up to 500 million, listed in Canada in the cannabis industry. Third one is the Midas Letter TSX Venture Index, which is all of the cannabis companies trading on the TSX Venture. And finally, the fourth one is the Midas Letter CSE Index, which is all the stocks trading on the CSE, which, perversely enough, contains all of the U.S. multi-state operators that are trading.
There was a lot of acronyms in there.
That's just a mess.
Went flying by me. Much
disaster.
Like grade 11 algebra.
Oh, it's fucking balls.
So can you look at this chart and see what the today's rippers were and what I should have bought?
Well, no, okay.
I can't. That seemed like an obvious question.
Yeah,
but no, what can you do with all this
So what
fun?
we do is we go look at the market movers column over here, and it defaults right to the TSX Venture. So we can see that out of these we have, Chiron Life Sciences. So Chiron Life Sciences is the 4th most active stock today traded by volume. But Chiron Life Sciences, I own 150,000 restricted share units of this company. As a result of them being a client formerly, they are going to once again be our top Latin American, our only Latin American client, because we won't take any other ones, thanks to them. And we are going to produce incredible content for them. Why? Because I honestly believe that Chiron Life Sciences will be the canopy growth of the Latin American sector. And the reasons for that are multitudinous.
That's not a word.
Legion.
No. Man, Legion, I'll give you.
Plentiful.
Plentiful. There's lots of reasons.
So,
but that trades on one of those 4 exchanges that you were talking about.
Yeah, so the TSX Venture Exchange. So it's the best performing cannabis stock on the TSX Venture today among the stocks that are established cannabis stocks. There's a couple of stocks trading higher. They might be in the cannabis space, but they're micro caps, and we don't generally talk too much about micro caps since I got completely laid out in another micro cap that we won't talk about today.
I don't even know what a micro cap is. Is that a tiny cap?
Yes. So a micro cap is any stock with a market cap. Now, caveat, these definitions are mine and some other guys' definitions.
Okay.
You and some other guys might have other definitions, but for the most part, micro cap is
I'm looking at my side body. I have no definition. I thought it was in good shape.
Micro cap is under 100 million. Okay. Small cap is 100 million to 500 million. Some would say 100 million to $1 billion.
Wow.
Mid cap would be $1 billion to 10, and large cap would be 10 billion and beyond.
In the cannabis space, I love that word, space. Who are the large caps? Is it Aurora, Canopy? Are those the only ones?
Large, well, you know, that changes on a day-to-day basis. But again, this is something you can do using our index tool on Midas Letter.
So if I went to Midas Letter, this would be there.
Yeah, so you go to Midas Letter. So this is the large cap Canadian index. I'm going to click on Go to Index page down here. Click on that, and the immediate default order in which the stocks are going to be listed when the internet finally gets around to showing me what they are, it will list them in order of market capitalization.
Look at that.
Yes.
So those are the big ones.
So these are the biggest. Canopy's #1, Aurora's #2, Kronos is now #3, having displaced Aphria. Hexo's moving up the ladder, #5. It's displaced CannTrust, which CannTrust is moving up and is now displaced Organogram. The Green Organic Dutchman is still there. Green Growth Brands is rapidly gaining ground. But the great thing about this tool is if we want to see who's performing the worst today, we just click on the percent signs that orders them by performance for the day.
Okay.
So TerraSyn being the worst performer, having lost 2.5%, down 21 cents. Canopy Growth Corp having lost $1.34, down 2.2%. And Hexo has lost 9 cents, down 1.14. Sorry, yeah. Down 9 cents, 1.14%. Really? 9 cents is 1% of, yes, that's right. Never mind. And then if you click it again, then you get the opposite order. You get the best performers. So CannTrust is the best performer of the day, having tacked on 4.25% in value, adding 49 cents, currently at 12.03. Mind you, this is all with a 20-minute delay. Aphria has added 2.61%, pushing through $13.75, $13.75, all in Canadian dollars. Auxly Cannabis, whoa, look at Auxly actually had a decent day. It's up a penny.
It's up a penny?
It's up a penny.
It's up a penny?
It's up a bloody penny.
It's lovely.
How can
it's
a
up
cannabis,
a penny?
How can a stock that's only 74 cents be a large cap stock?
Is this show going anywhere?
What is that?
Is this show on anything?
I don't know.
I just feel like I'm over at your place. You're like, let me show you some cool things on my computer.
Faye Smith says it might be cool if we can take investing calls. 416-906-0020. Faye, if you want to call me and have an investor call, I'm standing by. Okay, that was a fucking brilliant idea. What do you think? We got nothing but time to sit around here.
Well, I don't even know. This show is so loose at this point. I have a question. May I?
Please.
So, these are all stocks that are traded on Canadian exchanges. Are there stocks being traded on American exchanges for cannabis yet?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. The reason you don't actually see what could arguably be by the market cap the largest cannabis company in the world, Tilray, is because it only trades on NASDAQ. NASDAQ is a U.S. exchange. So because we're Canadian based, if we start to talk about U.S. companies and their U.S. symbols and their U.S. trading activity, the interpretation by the Securities Exchange Commission will be that we're trying to communicate and about the performance of U.S. companies, and that would resolve in what in Spanish they call esposos. Esposo is being Spanish for husband.
Yeah.
And that's what they call handcuffs in Latin America.
Is it?
Yes.
Interesting.
So we generally stay away from talking about U.S. stocks because the American SEC is a bit of a.
And I'm not saying this facetiously. I mean, you can't even talk about it as a concept of, in America they are trading this big company.
As long as the primary symbol is Canadian,
right,
we will include them in our discourse because we're talking about the Canadian symbol to the Canadian audience. We're in Canada.
Yeah.
But as soon as you go onto the U.S. side, it's just considering that we're market participants. There's too much risk in that. You might.
And this is part of the keep James out of jail plan.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I get it.
Disclose ownership.
I get it, man.
Disclose clients.
I get it.
Never front run a stock. Protect the public interest ahead of your own. You will stay out of jail.
This is your credo.
Those are my 4 simple rules for achieving my #1 rule, which is stay out of jail.
This is your credo,
yes.
your motto,
yes.
your raison
yes.
d'etre.
My sole
your reason
moral
to
code.
What's that, sir?
Ooh, they're giving you posture advice.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm trying to relax here.
What was that,
very
Lord?
Uptight.
Oh, God, Lord, he's slouching again.
Here's my question. When do we check out today's markets? When does that happen? When do we look at the market close? Are we doing that now?
Potatoes, orange juice, pork bellies.
Yeah, I want to talk about. I want a dissertation about pork bellies.
It's 4 o'clock and markets are closed.
Okay.
So now is generally the time when we would take to the screen and start to look at who traded what, where, and how much and when.
Did we not just do that?
We did. See, that's what I said. We're ahead of the curve. We're always ahead of our time around here.
I see.
Now, this tool is no good for seeing what happened at the market close during the actual closing of the market because it's 20-minute delay. For that, we have to go to our handy dandy quote stream, which gives us real-time data in real time.
And this will show us who did the best today?
Well, so here's what I can do. I can go here and I put in this squiggly sign. Oops. Sorry, watch this. Watch this.
I'm watching the screen.
You can do this at quotemedia.com if you want to follow along at home, though we don't recommend it. Oh, that's the market mover screen. No wonder I can't. I have to go to the portfolio screen, which begins with P. So there it is, down with the P's. Okay, so see, I've got the Canadian Cannabis Index. This is the portfolio manager. Now I'm going to go, oh, no, shit, I don't have, yep, there it is. Canadian Cannabis, what? Okay, so yeah, here we go. Here we have it. So the first index also includes the indexes themselves, which is tremendously confusing for anybody trying to follow along at home. But we're going to look at, we click on percent change, and boom, starting down here, the index constituents are all down here. These are the indices themselves. So, in the context of large cap companies, see, here's one that trades on the CSC, but this company operates only in America, Charlotte's Web. Famous because it was founded by the Stanley brothers, who are the ones who actually formulated the first CBD oil that stopped young Charlotte Figge from suffering 200 epileptic fits per day and gave her a normal quality of life.
Because of the miracle of CBD.
Which catalyzed Colorado becoming the first legal state in the United States.
Look at you.
I know, it's a wealth of fountain of information.
All that came from some squiggly numbers.
Fuck. Anyways, then there's
How happy that made you.
I can't tell you. We're going down to shoot footage now.
What would Ed normally be doing during these times?
Ed would be doing very much what you're doing.
Okay.
Barking back witticisms, comments, questions, trying to interpret what I'm saying, trying to keep me, more or less on the ground, in my seat, in my chair. But so again, same as on the cannabis index, we click that and we get them ordered by who performed the best. So, M. Hardeen is climbing back up the rankings. CanTrust is up there 6.76%. So see, this is interesting. The rankings have changed. Who?
M. Hardeen has a new CEO. This is what I just heard.
Wow, no kidding.
I love that guy. Who's the new guy?
I don't know. Yeah. Here's a great thing. Oh, let's get him on the show. How about that?
Yeah.
That's a hell of an idea.
The new CEO of
Anyways, so that's the cannabis large cap. Now let's look at the venture index. Okay, so what do we got here? This is the problem. There are so many marijuana companies coming online. It's like, I don't know any of these companies.
Do you have your, like, do you check yours every day as an investor?
My own
your own
stocks?
holdings and things, or do you just leave it and check every once in a while?
I look every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to see, you know, okay, the market did this. Let's see how my choices did.
Right.
But I mean, I honestly trade so kind of like opportunistically across so many sectors, not just cannabis, that there are some days where I actually don't own, you know, more than a couple of cannabis stocks, and there's other days where it's like, oh, that's all I've got is cannabis stocks. I'm more of a trader than a longer term investor.
Because they say, you know, I mean, for the regular folks, for just normal people, they say you're not really supposed to look at your stuff, you know, too regularly, not focus on the day to day.
When you're giant slaloming down a hill, bad idea to look at your skis.
Right. but for someone like you and for the people that are following the Midas Letter, they would want to watch it every day.
What do you mean they wouldn't want to watch it?
I'm saying they would want to watch it.
Absolutely. That's the point.
These are your ears. They would want to watch it every day.
Hi, Mom.
My question is, would they, by watching it every day, is there more of an impetus to trade more often?
Well, different people, like for example, right now we have 530 people watching on YouTube alone. We've probably got something like 300 or 400 watching on Periscope as well. And then on our website, probably a bunch more. And then in the next 24 hours, there's going to be upwards of 2,000 people will watch the episode. Different people watch for different reasons. There are some people who watch just because they love our mindless zaniness. Right. And they find that funny and a good way to spend an hour.
They're going to be disappointed today then.
There are going to be disappointed. No, they're going to be exhilarated today.
Yes.
Some people tune in just to get like the perspective if we have anything smart to say about a company. Other people tune in just to see how wrong we are. Right. And think that they're smart and we're not. And so they're going to, you know, be able to talk about our show and what we said on our show and how stupid that makes us, which is fine. I'm happy to be somebody's stupid foil.
You know what, people, but bad news travels fast. People love that stuff. Bad news travels,
well, as our gold friend Edward here likes to say, good news travels by boat, bad news travels by jet. Something like that. Anyways.
It's quite pithy.
Yes, it sure is.
It's very pithy.
It is. It is. It's horribly pithy. Yeah, so that's the idea. You know, like, unfortunately today I haven't had time to really follow the market, so I don't really have much to, you know, say about what's going on today. The most valuable contribution I have to make most days is my incredibly insightful, incisive, deep, penetrating questions for the CEOs of the cannabis companies.
You really are. You really ought to take care, because there's a lot of blood.
Oh, that's the wrong end. Oh, I just burned my lips.
There's a lot of blood being pumped in that cranium of yours, young man.
Well, different reasons people watch.
But do you think that, again, you never really got to my question, which is, if you watch markets regularly, does that, in your experience, does that cause someone, because you're watching it, your interest in it is daily, does that prompt somebody to want to invest more?
Well, I would certainly.
Does it prompt you to want to invest more?
Well, here's the reason we started doing this, is like we looked at what coverage there was of the cannabis universe and public companies, and we found it sorely lacking in any depth of experience in capital markets generally, because here's the thing. Though it is cannabis and it's unprecedented in capital markets, it's still a stock.
Right.
And so as a stock, and as companies trading as public companies, the characteristics that make a great publicly traded cannabis company great are very much the same as the great characteristics of mining companies that are publicly traded.
Fundamentals, the people in charge, the
capital structure, the cost of capital, how much money did they raise, what's
infrastructure needs and all that.
Exactly. What's the expertise?
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is that, you know, Warren Buffett said this about being a market timer, not trying to time the market. But if my interest is cannabis and cannabis companies, am I looking at it thinking, oh, the gentleman from Aurora's coming on. Am I right?
Yes.
What's his name?
Cam Battley.
Cam Battley's coming on, and I see something I like in what Cam Battley has to say. Am I more likely to then want to make a purchase? I wonder about that. I mean, I'm just saying, like I watch golf a lot, so I'm obviously interested in how they're playing every day. And I imagine if I watch stocks every day, I'd want to participate more than if I didn't. Is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I don't even have
the bottom line is if you have a trusted source of regular commentary that can help you shape your own opinion, then even if we're wrong as often as we're right, at least there's a sounding board and somebody to like bounce your own thoughts off of, or maybe we're thinking the same way as somebody else is thinking, and they'll feel like, oh, okay, James and Ed and Howard like that stock, they're going to buy it. I'm going to jump in with them because I've never seen anybody lose so much money so fast in their lives as those three. So I like roller coaster rides.
And confirmation bias is a very powerful thing. That's all people are looking for.
That's right.
They want to confirm their own biases, and if something you or Ed says, because trust me, nothing I'm saying is
look at lemmings. We are no better than lemmings.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, Cam Battley is going to be here in just a minute, but first this.
Aurora Cannabis is one of the world's largest and leading cannabis companies. Headquartered in Edmonton, Alberta, the company has a funded capacity in excess of 500,000 kilograms per year and sales and operations in 23 countries across 5 continents. Aurora is involved in all elements of the cannabis supply chain, from facility engineering and design to cannabis breeding and genetics research, cannabis and hemp production, derivatives, high value add product development, home cultivation, wholesale and retail distribution. Aurora Cannabis has 15 wholly owned subsidiary companies, including MedRelief, Canvas RX, Aurora Deutschland, and has strategic partnerships with a range of companies, including Radiant Technologies Inc., Hemco Food and Fiber Inc., and McCann Group Limited. Aurora Cannabis trades on the New York Stock Exchange and the Toronto Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol ACB.
Joining me now is Cam Battley, Chief Corporate Officer of Aurora Cannabis Inc. Cam, welcome back.
Nice to see you, and that's a very restrained shirt that you're wearing today.
Thank you. I have adopted new standards of conservatism in the interests of many things. But let's not dwell on that. Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you more or less delivered on what you said you were going to do.
We did.
And the only thing I would challenge you on is that the losses are still not insubstantial.
No, you're right. The losses for the leading companies in the sector, us, Canopy, and a few others, are still pretty high. But what you'll see is something very important, and that is that the rate of growth in our revenues is far outpacing the rate of growth in our expenses. And so we put out guidance, as you remember, in January, indicating that we were shifting gears from an era of rapid M&A to a period of buckled down focus on disciplined execution and cost management. And the bottom line on that was something really important, and that is we put a stake in the ground that we believe that we'll achieve positive EBITDA in the second calendar quarter of this year. And that's critically important. You know, we met with hundreds of institutional investors over the months prior to our most recent convertible note. And what we heard from them very clearly is that they need to hear more about the pathway to profitability. And we gave them what they were looking for, along with some very clear insights to guide analyst estimates with respect to our production, culminating with what we said that we would achieve in the second calendar quarter of this year. It would be our year end, our Q4 fiscal, and that will be 25,000 kilograms of saleable product. So production is ramping up fast. We have a clear pathway to profitability, and we think that puts us in the driver's seat.
That's great. Do you see that the path to profitability is going to ramp from there, or is it going to be a case of where you hit one quarter and then you're going to have to take a dip, or is it going to just continue to scale up?
Yeah, I think people's expectations are we need to be focusing as a sector on sustained profitability. So that's what we see happening. And given the production forecast that we have, it's pretty clear we're going to be entering into a period of sustained profitability in the middle of 2019. So beyond what we've already said with respect to achieving positive EBITDA in the second calendar quarter, I anticipate that we'll also be looking at positive cash flow from operations in the third calendar quarter of this year, and then it's just up from there.
Now, you held a press conference this week essentially advocating for the elimination of taxes for medical cannabis, and you had bipartisan participation in that. Tripartisan, right? Yeah. Okay. So, what is that? What should we take away from that? Are you going to prevail, do you think, in getting the government to remove taxes from medical cannabis, or is that going to be something that you're banging your head against a brick wall?
We have been fighting for taxation to be removed from medical cannabis for a long time, for a couple of years and more. So long before the federal government in October 17th, started to apply the excise tax on top of medical cannabis. In the period before that, it was about the GST and HST, which was also wrong. The reason being, it is the only prescription medicine, medical cannabis, the only prescription medicine in Canada for which any tax applies. And that's simply wrong. We're talking about people with chronic illnesses, vulnerable people, dealing with all the burdens of their illness, also many of them in an income-constrained situation. And the idea of applying tax on top of that, discriminating against them, is ridiculous, especially if you consider the fact that opioids have no taxes applied to them. These are other prescription drugs. Across the board, there's no taxation. So why medical cannabis? We know it's wrong. We believe we're going to win that, and we're going to win it this year. And something very important that happened, you mentioned we had tripartisan support. So we had members of Parliament from the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP on the stage with us, along with Canadians for Fair Access to Medical Marijuana, the advocacy group, and some individual patients. And we all feel the same way, that it's an injustice and it's punitive to chronically ill patients. But what really has changed, if you paid attention to what the conservative health critic Marilyn Gladue said, she said that conservatives believe that there should be no taxation on prescription medicines, and to be consistent, there should be no taxation on medical cannabis. Well, that's an important policy development. It suggests that the Conservatives have now moved ahead of the Liberals with respect to the taxation of medical cannabis. And I think that the Liberals are going to respond. There's very strong support from the discussions that we've had among all three caucuses. I think that this is something that we're going to achieve in 2019, and it'll be a great thing for patients.
But won't they have to eliminate the taxation on recreational cannabis at the same time? Otherwise, risk recreational users obtaining prescriptions just in an effort to circumvent that requirement and pay a little less for their cannabis?
You know, we've heard those arguments before, and I think that they're entirely specious, and I'll tell you why. With a medical patient, the process of receiving a prescription for medical cannabis is exactly like the process for achieving a prescription for any other medicine. You come in, you discuss your symptoms with your physician, you talk about the potential appropriateness of medical cannabis as an alternative. And remember that physicians have access to patients' medical records and to their treatment records. So they know when they're dealing with a patient who actually has a chronic illness. And no Canadian physician is going to want to put their license at risk in order to be writing fraudulent prescriptions for medical cannabis. And this is incredibly important because it also discriminates against lower income and middle income Canadians, the taxation of medical cannabis. If you think about it, currently you can write off the cost of your medical cannabis on your federal taxes every year, according to Canada Revenue Agency rules. But that's not available to people of lower incomes who don't even pay enough tax to actually have any write-offs. So it's a question of unfairness. It's a question of achieving justice, and I think that there is a strong momentum towards righting a wrong here. And I also want to emphasize, like I said, this is not a partisan issue because we've got support from all three caucuses. But also I want to give credit to the federal government for the way that they have managed the cannabis file overall. I think it's okay to say you're doing a good job overall, but on this particular point, you're offside. So let's fix it. Let's all get together on this.
Wow. Sort of taking a bit of a curve now, I also noticed in your recent financial statements that your production is at an all-time high in terms of cannabis output itself. Other companies, without pointing any fingers, have suffered decrease in productivity, and in fact the incidence of crop loss is becoming more prevalent in the sort of rumor mill of the cannabis industry. So how is it that Aurora is able to continue to
sort of break its own records in terms of cannabis output, while others are starting to fail more frequently?
What we've always said is that our production, our cultivation and production style is very specifically designed to avoid risks such as disease and pests that lead to crop loss. And touch wood, we've never lost a crop, and I hope that we never do. If you take a look at our Sky class facilities, starting with Aurora Sky at Edmonton International Airport, it is a closed system with overpressure, positive pressure, just like in pharmaceutical manufacturing, that keeps nasty things out of the facility. That's a very, very big step. And so the consistency of the production that we're able to achieve and the predictability and the risk mitigation are some of the advantages that I think that we have in this sector. And in the last quarter, you know, if you dig down a little bit into companies' earnings, you will see that Aurora actually had the highest production of any company in the sector. And that's very gratifying to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, finally, with EBITDA profitability just around the corner, what other milestones do investors in Aurora have to look forward to this year?
So you're talking about what kind of catalysts?
Yeah.
Well, we previously indicated, and we hope to have an announcement soon about our beginning commercial sales of our derivative products in Germany. And as you know, Canadian companies that sell dried flower in Germany receive a premium, in part because of the currency differences between the euro and the Canadian dollar. And you can expect that the same ethic will apply to derivative products. So even higher margins on these oils and eventually capsules and so on. And we're going to be selling those products in Germany in this current quarter. That's novel. Something else that I think is driving really positive developments for our company is that we continue to evolve and mature. And evidence of that came out this week, starting with an announcement a couple of days ago that we've made some changes to our board to further enhance governance, and we're going to continue to do that. Our chairman has now become our executive chairman. That's my friend Michael Singer. He's moved into the executive chairman role on the management side, but we've also added a really great independent director. Her name is Shan Atkins, with a lot of experience with large public companies, including Shoppers Drug Mart. And she's come in, and she is a CA, and she'll be heading our audit committee. And then Ron Funk, another extremely experienced director, is our now lead independent director. And then beyond that, we have Norma Beauchamp, another very experienced director, and she is the head of our governance committee. So very, very strong moves with respect to the board. And then today we've also announced a couple of very well-earned promotions to further strengthen our senior management team. Darren Karasiuk has been promoted to Chief Commercial Officer, and he'll be heading up our branding, our sales and marketing on a global basis. And Jill Swainson, who was our General Counsel and SVP, has been promoted to Chief Legal Officer and Corporate Secretary. And these are very, very strong individuals. And I'd put our senior management team, actually our overall management team, up against anybody in the sector.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great, Cam. Awesome update as per usual. We'll come back to you again soon. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. That's just fabulous, Cam. Fabulous, Cam.
The Fab Cam.
I love that, man. See you later, Cam. You the rest. Woo!
He's great. Cam is good people.
He's good peeps, man.
I've caught on to the show now. You're supposed to yell.
Yes. Well, I prefer to be listened to on Howard's microphone. Anyways, yes, I was
muted. My mic, am I talking too loud?
No,
I'm often accused of being very loud.
I left my mic on mute when I went to the boys' room.
Mic isn't working.
Yes, they couldn't hear.
Well, I just want to say this Midas letter is something else, huh?
You think so?
Yeah, it's cool.
Really? You like it?
Yeah, I dig the scene.
Oh, really? So this wasn't like a bust? You're not like...
Oh, I had a great time.
It's time to like get out of here. Fuck.
Yeah, is it over?
Yeah, should we?
When does it end?
It's never going to end.
I've learned a lot about cannabis.
Wow.
Cannabis.
We need a song about cannabis.
Are you listening?
Isn't there a cannabis tune? Like we need to, like, next episode, not next episode, but next week, one of the things you have to look forward to is we're going to find all of the best music that has as its subject, lyrical content, or its sentiment being high or something to do with cannabis.
So everything Bob Marley ever did?
Basically, we're listening to Bob Marley for the next week.
You know, it's funny because I was, you were somewhere warm last week, I was somewhere warm, and midway through my trip, I was in the Turks and Caicos Islands, which is beautiful. But midway through, there was a little bar we were at, and they started playing some Bob Marley music. And there's nothing like being in the sun, somewhere warm. And it's funny about that music, it doesn't burn for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've been playing music as a job for 40 years, and some songs I never, honestly, if I would, it's like being tortured to hear some of them. But for some reason, Bob Marley music, it always seems apt when you're somewhere warm.
Yes.
Does that seem like overstating the obvious to you?
No. Well, no, because I know what you mean. I mean, I never played music as part of my job, but, you know, being stoned for predominantly the majority of my life, we've always had a soundtrack running.
Yes.
And Bob Marley's, particularly the album Exodus, was a big part of that. Like, I'm going to say, like, one of the, if I was to name 5 albums of all time that I would consider the most influential, most welcome anthem albums that every time I hear it, it just makes me smile and feel warm inside, Bob Marley Exodus is right up there.
Okay.
One's got to be Led Zeppelin. One's got to be Pink Floyd. I think one would be Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to be friends. But I can't, being a radio announcer, songs are different. But like Led Zeppelin, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Pink Floyd, you know, not amongst my favorites.
How about Toro y Moi?
Don't get sassy with me, sir.
Toro y Moi? You don't know Toro y Moi?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, opening for the next show, we're going to play a clip from Toro y Moi's most recent album
Toro y Moi.
Outer Space, is it? Yes. Anyways, it's kicking, and it's going to be thematic here.
Well, and we were also going to, you said we were going to next week do some marijuana-themed music that was specifically written either as a tribute to marijuana, or as you say, thematically it's marijuana. And
why do you have some other stuff in mind?
Well, I'm sure we could look it up, couldn't we? Isn't there the internet?
Yeah, well, you know.
Is there no internet at the Midas Letter?
Internet? Intranet. Yes, we have internet. It's horribly unreliable sometimes. See, if you were wondering, Cam, how much of a draw, Howard, how much of a draw Cam is?
Right.
We're down to 516 now.
There's some good stuff people are saying here.
Yeah.
This one says...
feel free to identify them by name.
Michael Edwards says Cam said on another interview that they would most likely partner in 12 months, then backtracked and said 6 because they would be more valuable.
Ha.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for stuff that mentions me. Nothing. Not a thing. People are, you know what it is? It's like, I get it. Humble and Fred, we had our day. That day's passed. Although I would like to say I'm on tomorrow morning. No, actually, that's not true. I only work Monday through Thursday. But the best of Humble and Fred tomorrow.
You're on 4 days a week?
4 days a week, yes.
Really? Mm-hmm. What do people do on that 5th day?
The best of Humble and Fred, Friday and Saturday morning, 7 to 9 on Funny 820 and at humbleandfredradio.com.
What's Funny 820?
It's the comedy radio station that carries my show every day.
No kidding?
Yeah, man.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
And you can pick that up anywhere?
Anywhere in Southern Ontario.
Southern Ontario. Oh, well, okay, so I'm sure there's some of our audience is from Southern Ontario, but the majority of our audience is actually American.
Are they really?
Yes.
Well, then they can go to humbleandfredradio.com and stream our show live every day at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. For you Americans, we were on Sirius XM for about 5 years, up till about 6 months ago.
What happened? You just said
contract ended. We went to a different comedy outlet. We did it for advertising. We just thought it would be a better opportunity for us in Southern Ontario than trying to sell advertising to people in Calgary.
Yes. I wanted to acknowledge some of our regular viewers here. Jonathan Marlowe, you're pretty serious about ACB, 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 ACB. Anyways, don't know what you mean by that. Tony, Cam is a greasy greaseball. That kind of comment gets you removed. Let's see.
Why is heritage surging, says ER.
Why is heritage surging?
Yeah.
Now this is an interesting question.
What is heritage?
Heritage Cannabis is the company that bought a private company that I was quite a large shareholder in. Still am, but it's now part of a big company with a big float, and they're doing an amazing job of, I don't know why the stock is running so hard,
Rippin'? Is it rippin'?
It's rippin'. It's rippin'. It has doubled in price in the last month. And, you know, there's 2 times to worry about a stock and what it's doing.
Tell me.
One, when it's flying and you can't for the life of you figure out why.
When you don't know, there's
because
no, nothing supports
it's dangerous
it.
because you're tempted to chase it. And
so one time if it's flying.
And the other time is if it's diving and you have no idea why it's diving.
You want to know the third time?
Okay.
You know the third time not to buy a stock? If I buy it.
If you buy it.
If I buy it.
Maddie T6T5BY wanted to mention that he thinks the stock is ripping because they bought a ton of extraction equipment. And they do have a big extraction operation out in the West Coast. That could be definitely part of it. Johnny says, hey, Howard, 100%er of the Humble and Fred show here. Great to see you on this show.
Oh, thank you, Johnny.
So Johnny's...
Yes. Johnny's a 100%er.
Wow.
That's what a real core Humble and Fred fan is known as a Hundy P. It's a long story, but basically, these are people that have listened to every one of our podcasts, which is now over 2,000 of them. That guy's listened to every single one of them.
No kidding.
Yes,
well,
sir.
You know what we do on certain Fridays?
What's that?
Is we invite the audience to a watering hole where we promise to buy them drinks if they show up. So when that next happens, we'll be sure to give him a shout out.
That is completely different than how we do it on the Humble and Fred show. Because we don't want to be in any watering hole. But unless, here's the thing, Fred doesn't want to leave his house, and I get nervous around people. So that's what stops us.
Wow. How did you make it here today?
I have no idea.
You had to come downtown through the throngs.
Seriously.
Oh my goodness.
No idea what I did.
That's some scary ass shit.
But thank you for having me, by the way.
Yeah. No, look how many people are watching right now.
Really?
420.
Yeah. How ironic.
How ironic.
Oh my
Coming
God.
up on the show next week, Maris Cott is going to be here. He's the CEO of Red Fund Capital. I think that's tomorrow. Chatting. It's all tomorrow. So Maris Cott, ignore that interstitial that says coming up next week. It's coming up tomorrow. Maris Cott, the CEO of Red Fund Capital, will be here. Charting man Dan McDermott from thechartguys.com is going to be here to join us. Steve Wright, the CEO of Harvest Health and Recreation, I believe for the first time, will be here tomorrow as well. That's our show for today. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit that red button so you always get a notification when we're going live. And subscribe to our newsletter on the website at MidasLetter.com. Plus, don't forget to go and check out humbleandfred.com if you want to hear 2,000 versions of a podcast that's been going for decades.
Same crap every day. It's just the same stupid junk.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.